Day 3 we started from atop a ridgeline, and so the weather was freezing and the wind was ripping across the face of the mountain. On the contrary to the day before, we immediately started walking downhill. Whether this made it better or not, I'm not sure, but the knee problem that began developing yesterday resurfaced within maybe only a half hour in, and the shooting pain returned with every step onto my right side. The stunning views were pushed to the back of my mind by this, and I was already miserable and in a bad mood before 8 a.m. I'll watch professional sports or military training and think that what they do looks easy and that they're all just soft. So this was a big humble pill I had to swallow, because Zane was completely fine, and it's also a good time to mention that the average age of people doing the Tour de Mont Blanc was probably around 50 years old. While I wasn't about to quit, I did have to think to myself, if I'm permanently damaging my leg, it's not worth it to continue to trek on it. No matter how much ego and pride that would cost, I wouldn't want to live the rest of my life with a cane. Once at the bottom of the mountain again, it was mostly flat, which was bearable. There was a road that followed the trails, so in the case of an absolute emergency, I would be able to get a ride out. However, soon, the culmination of all these small inconveniences was going to create the crux of the entire trek.
Do they have bells too?
Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find our long forgotten gold.
The walk along the valley had several water crossings, and at some point my shoes began leaking really bad and soaked my socks. By the time I had switched to flip-flops, I had already begun to develop a blister on my right foot. Being outdoors in nature sounded disgusting at this point. Like, why couldn't we just drive around this mountain?
The pines were roaring on the height, the winds were moaning in the night, the fire was red, it flaming spread, the trees like torches blazed with light.
But not to break the pattern, this is about where it started to come off the rails again. Rain started falling, and we had to ascend and descend another 2,000 feet over a mountain. With one good knee, soaking wet, and the safety net of the road now far behind, the final climb for the day started. For some reason, this day, forcing a perspective on myself actually worked. The days past, I couldn't enjoy the views or the tranquil walks, simply because I still hadn't made the conscious decision to change my attitude. Today, with the rain above and fog pretty much whiting out any meaning of background, the only options now were keep walking and have fun, or keep walking. There are times when choosing joy isn't so simple, but out on a trek when the only goal of the day is simply the trek itself, choosing joy comes way easier and had an immediate effects on my attitude. We stopped at a different refugio for a couple of hours before heading back out into the rain for the last 2 miles. Having to leave a dry place still wet actually didn't take a ton of willpower with my newfound joy. Despite the cold and wet, the last stretch of day 3 was one of the most tranquil moments. As we crossed the wetlands, there was a really raw moment I remember. The only sounds was the rain falling, footsteps on gravel, and the nylon poncho I was wearing. I didn't film it, but the mudroom at our destination for the night had a roaring wood-burning stove, and after a day of tribulations and constant pain, I've never had a warmer, fuzzy feeling than that.
The trees like torches blazed with light.